Welcome everyone. We are just having some casual chit chat. We'll be starting another 5-10 minutes once everyone's here. A lot of people messaged me saying that they got excited with this topic and they really want to listen to what Inderjeet ji has to say. And those who have just joined, let me inform you, Inderjeet ji is with us from UK, Nottingham, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
So you're from UK, and he's the author of this book, Afghan, Hindus and Sikhs. And this is the topic that we'll be discussing today. What exactly happened? How did Sikhs, Hindus reach there, or were they there and someone just came in? But what is the situation today? Because when you look at news media, it's never the true picture, or you don't get 100% reality. Inderjeet ji himself being an Afghan Sikh, right? I hope I'm not wrong on that part.
No, let me correct you.
Okay.
Let me correct you. Okay, my ancestry, they are from my paternal grandparents were from Lahore. My maternal Nanke were from Lailpur. So there is a connection from the West Punjab. So, but I don't trace any heritage from Afghan Sikhs. So it's just purely that when I started researching in West Punjab and Sindh and all these great European travelers, adventurers, they had also covered Afghanistan and Balochistan as well. So I covered. So in my book, if you see the last 3 chapters, I've covered the frontier province, Hindus and Sikhs in frontier province, Hindus and Sikhs in Balochistan, and then 1 chapter is on the Pathan Sikhs of Pakistan. So no, I'm a Punjabi Sikh, so let's put it this way.
Okay. You know, I've been reading your articles that you put on SikhNet and all, and I can see the kind of research that you have put in, and that's why I can tell you, some of you already have this book. Like Anshuman just mentioned that he has got the book, but he never had a chance to read it. Sometimes, you know, we say that more precious stuff comes in smaller packets. So I don't feel that if you have a huge book, it has so much knowledge. No, that's not the case always. Sometimes smaller books like these, and you know, even this one.
That's a great one.
Sometimes smaller the better. Okay, so I think we have got quite a few people over here, and maybe we can start with our discussion. So welcome everyone. We are going to talk about the Sikhs and Hindus of Afghanistan, their past, present and future. We know that we all have heard about Indus Valley civilization. For those who don't know, let me tell you that we do not have any proper city or town from the Indus Valley time in present day Afghanistan. However, there are 2-3 sites which have been discovered, but they were more like trading posts. So they were not cities like Mohenjo-daro or Dholavira or Harappa, but they were small trading posts which were used on the other side of Darra Khyber, because Darra Khyber or that Khyber Pass is one area from where easily one can move. Instead, when you have to cross entire Himalaya, going uphill and coming down is not that easy. But where you have passes, where there is a gap between the high mountain range, is what we call a pass, and that's how the trading routes were established. So we have those references from past and connections with Jammu and Kashmir, and Afghanistan trading post eventually linked us to China, Tibet, Turkestan, Mongolia, this entire belt. Then when the 16 Mahajanpadas were established, we have references of one of the important Janpadas, the Kamboj, or you know, even today we have a Kambo or Kamboj community. Kamboj surname is very common in Punjab, Pakistan, and it starts with Rishi Kamboj, who is said to, Ekam Stotra is one of the books in which he is mentioned alongside Ashoka, and that book also comes from somewhere around 1st or 2nd century BC. So that book talks about Rishi Kamboj, and they say that there is another text which mentions that Rishi Kamboj once decided that I no longer want to stay here in this area. I want to go far away from this land, and the entire territory of Ashoka or whatever Hindustan was at that time, he crossed this entire belt towards the east And when he reached a land where he said, okay, no, now I'm far away from my original land, and this is where I have to settle. He stayed there. He started a new settlement, and that area is today known as Cambodia. So some people say that Cambodia is associated with Rishi Kamboj, who comes from Afghanistan, this entire belt. Then we have references of Gandhar, Gandhari, जो अब कांधार का इलाका है हमारे पास अफगानिस्तान में. तो बहुत सारे references we have got in history. And moving forward a little later from where the context of this book also starts, that's where I would like to rope in Inderjeet ji, who is now with us, and maybe he can shed some more light, because the information that I have dates back to like 3rd century BC and before that. Even I don't know after that. I've not studied that part yet. So, Inderjeet ji, why don't you pitch in and tell us about the past of Hindus and Sikhs in Afghanistan?
Yes, thank you, Vikram, for having me. It's great to be with your friends and your followers. Okay, I think people don't realize that one of the major problems that Afghan Hindus and Sikhs face, and now 90% of them are settled across the world, that they are not considered the original inhabitants of Afghanistan. So any book you pick up on Afghanistan is they finish at Hindu Shahi dynasty, which finished about at 10th century, and by that time Islam had already covered or captured the whole of Afghanistan. So my issue was that, okay, what happened to the Hindus after that? And subsequently, obviously the Sikhs came when Guru Nanak went to Afghanistan. So I looked at few books. There was a book by an Afghan Hindu. He had written in Farsi, which was translated in German. So I got that book, and through Google Translate, I managed to translate it. So, and because the German and English, they share all the same script, so it's not that difficult. And obviously, I know, Vikram, you have learned Urdu for your passion. I didn't learn German from a passion, but I did find a way to do it. And again, in that book, he jumps from Hindu Shahi dynasty to 20th century. So his book had a lot of information. But what happened to Hindus? Okay, let's go back one step. Let's take one step back. In Afghanistan, there are numerous theories how Hindus and Sikhs came to Afghanistan. So for the Sikhs, they say, well, some of them came when Maharaja Ranjit Singh's army came with the British around in 1839, 1840. But I personally don't believe that's true, because all the Hindus and Sikhs in Afghanistan are Khatris and Aroras. Punjab has a huge population of Jat or Jat. So that's totally missing in Afghan Sikh population, and even in Afghanistan as such. So that population would have constituted a huge number in the Khalsa army, which is quite evident from the British sources. Another theory is that Ahmad Shah Abdali brought them either as slaves or as merchants from India. Now, Ahmad Shah Abdali was a lieutenant or a military commander under Nadir Shah. And Nadir Shah was basically he had a huge empire, short-lived but huge empire, from Iran, parts of Uzbekistan, Azerbaijan to Pakistan. And if we see the records of European travelers during that period, the Hindu traders were doing brisk business in Isfahan, which was the capital of Nadir Shah. So the Hindus were still over there. And then there was a theory which is an interesting one, that Babur joined Kabul with Hindustan, and that brought some of them. Now we are looking at 500 years now. It's a theory, but most people don't know that Kabul was a part of Mughal India from about 1504 to 1738 till Nadir Shah, basically, and then Emir Shah Abdali got it. For about 220 years, 30 years, it was part of the Mughal India, and people moved around within provinces. And then there's another theory, which is difficult to prove anyway, that Mahmud Ghaznavi brought a lot of slaves from India. Now, Mahmud Ghaznavi's tenure and his infamous expeditions and invasions of India are well documented. Yes, he did brought a lot of slaves, but he, if you take one step back, his father Subutkin got Kabul from Jaipal Shahi. So are we saying that the Subutkin or Mahmud Ghaznavi finished all the Hindus from Afghanistan, that he had to brought it from India? And interestingly, uh, Mahmud and his subsequent successors, Masood 1, 2, 3, they all had Hindus in their armies. And that Professor Jabir Raza of Aligarh Muslim University, he has done a few journal articles on it. This work was primarily done first time in 1870 by, there's a book, there's a famous book, a series of books, History of India as retold by their own historians, by Eliot. And he has translated a lot of Persian books, and he mentioned them. So it's very interesting. For me, the Hindus in Afghanistan were always there. Now people ask me, well, are there Pashtuns, Hazaras, or Hazara is basically the Shia community. They're considered to be the descendant of Mongols. They have small eyes, like chinky features, so they do like Mongolian. But Afghanistan, we cannot compare Afghanistan with India as such. But coming back to the point that are Afghans, Hindus, one of the tribes, well, we don't know. You have to see that in those times, still very recently, intercaste marriage never used to happen. Intertribal marriage never used to happen. This is a modern phenomena of basically what we call that in school education, co-ed education. Co-ed education has broken that boundaries, which persisted for centuries. Yes, rich people could always marry women from beautiful women from any community, but that was an oddity. That was a exception, not a norm. So even if somebody, say, had embraced Islam, they from Hinduism, they found it difficult to get married. And it was not easy, straightforward, easy as that. Similarly, if somebody had converted from other way around, say from Muslim to become a Sikh, they would have found it very difficult to get married. So in some cases, at least I know few people who it might find difficult to people to appreciate this, but in some cases people have changed their caste. Like I know a Muslim who became a Sikh, and for obvious reasons, and this was happened about 60, 70 years old. He's an old man now. His father took the surname of Bedi. And I asked him politely, I said, well, why did you do it? He said, well, I became the disciple of Guru Nanak, and Guru Nanak was a Bedi. So there's a lot more to research. But for me, Hindus were living in Afghanistan at the since times immemorial, so since centuries. So they were there when Mahmud Ghaznavi were there. They were there till very recently. Now coming back to Sikhs. Now all the Hindus and Sikhs in Afghanistan, they share the same surname. So they are all Khatris or Aroras. So it's not a rocket science to say, well, they had a common ancestor. So when the conversion happened between Hindus and Sikhs, Usually they did not change their surname or caste. Like in Pakistan, if I can give a quick example just to explain things, except for few Jats in West Punjab, you have Sandhu, Vadach, Chattha, Siddhus as well, Bajwa, like the general, the army general, chief of army staff in Pakistan is a Bajwa, which is a Jat Sikh. We have a Bajwa's Jat Sikh, former speaker of Punjab Assembly. People do not write their surnames in Pakistan. So when you become friendly with them, they will tell you that, okay, I belong to a Khatri caste, so I'm a Khanna. I am Khurana, or those kind of things. But usually they do not write. So like this guy had a name called Wasim Akram, a famous fast bowler. Unless he had told me that he belonged to a Khatri caste, or as they call it, a sheikh, we would not know. The only exception probably is in Pakistan is the Rajputs. The Rajputs are very proud, the Muslim Rajputs are very proud of their Rajput heritage. So they will write their surnames. But now, for most Indian Rajputs or the Hindu Rajputs, they are unaware of them because all those Rajput tribes or surnames don't exist in India because they have all converted to Islam centuries ago. So coming back to, so when did Sikh came to Afghanistan? When Guru Nanak came to Afghanistan in 1521, he came to Afghanistan. So we have historical Gurudwaras in Kabul. We have, unfortunately, the Kabul Gurudwara got demolished and there is a place for it. But there are other historical Gurudwaras in Kabul. There's a Gurudwara in Jalalabad, Guru Nanak Darbar, which is being, which commemorates the wisdom of Guru Nanak. Then a few miles away is Sultanpur. You have then Pai Nandlal Gurudwara is in Ghazni. Now Pai Nandlal was born in Ghazni. He wrote a lot of hymns and his composition in Farsi, and he lived about first 18 years of his life in Ghazni. Now, just for non-Sikh audience, I will tell you that among most of the compositions which are sung in Gurudwaras are from three compositions basically. One is Guru Granth Sahib, one is Dasam Granth Sahib, and one is the compositions. To be fair, there are four compositions of Pai Nandlal and Pai Gurdas Ji. Vikram, correct me if I'm missing anybody.
That's right. Nandlalji goes by pen
Goya.
name Goya.
Goya, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So for me, you can say he's the most famous ancient or medieval age Sikh or Nanakpanthi, whatever we can call it. So we have for next few hundred years after Guru Nanak, we had Baba Shri Chand. Baba Shri Chand was the eldest son of Guru Nanak, but he started the Udasi sect. So it's more like on a sadhu kind of sect. So, but he also visited Kandahar and Kabul. So we have Gurudwara in Kandahar, which is in most like southern Afghanistan, a Gurudwara of Guru Nanak and Baba Shri Chand in Kandahar as well. So you have and he came about at 1540. Then an important development comes in about at Guru Amar Das Ji's time. So Guru Amar Das, we're looking at 1552 to 1574, about that region. So second half of 16th century. And he basically nominated certain people to go and preach Sikhi to various regions. So he called them Manjis. Manjis are like missionary seats. So one of the seats was in Kabul. And this is mentioned in Sikh books written in the 17th century, 18th century. And obviously, Guru Nanak's biographies are written in as Janam Sakhis. So the earliest Janam Sakhi is considered to be written about 1605, about 80 years after his demise, his Jyoti Jyot. And so we do have contemporary literature. Then we have, so for next 200 years, so there are various reference in Sikh history where the Afghan Sangat. So Sangat means basically Sikh people in congregation who are going or sitting in a Gurudwara. So, but we tend to use this word Sangat as anybody who's going to Gurudwara as well, or in a loose term as well. Sikh Sangat used to come to Punjab, East Punjab, as we know, to meet or pay their respects to Sikh gurus. So that is well documented. So what I did was in my book was I translated those paragraphs or those extracts in English. I've tried to use the original source because of two reasons. First of all, it was my first book. I didn't want anybody to say, well, it is your interpretation. Secondly, I was trying to help a community to basically prove that they are the original inhabitants or one of the original inhabitants of the country. So what I've tried is to not bore people too much with the references. So what I've done is have a good mix of, I've used the reference in the text as well. So I would say Hariram Gupta in History of Sikh says so and so, and in the end you have the full reference. So for casual reader, it is not boring, but obviously, and if somebody wants to research further, they can go back. Now in 20th century, okay, so we covered till the Guru period. The Guru period, Guru Gobind Singh Ji left the world in 1708. After that, we have a major reference, an interesting case that now it's a very interesting thing that people don't know that Ahmad Shah Abdali only lost one province in his entire career. Ahmad Shah Abdali he's known as Baba, Ahmad Shah Baba. Ahmad Shah Baba because he is considered that he basically united all the Pashtun or the Pathan tribes. So in Afghanistan, they are called Pashtun. In Pakistan, they are called Pathan. India, Pakistan, they are called Pathan. All the Pashtun tribes. So he is like the father of the nation. So he lost only one province in his life, and that was Punjab. And that was before Maharaja Ranjit Singh. So the Sikhs under the Misl period, if you have wrote Jassa Singh Ahluwalia, Jassa Singh Ramgarhia, Baba Baghel Singh, all those people managed to get there. So, and then Ranjit Singh came in. Now Ranjit Singh, another interesting thing is, I think it's Narinder Sinha. Yes, N.K. Sinha. N.K. Sinha wrote a book about Maharaja Ranjit Singh 1938 or 39. And he considers Maharaja Ranjit Singh as a great patriot of India. Now, it's an interesting case study that how we interpret history in a different way, in different era. Here is a writer who is writing when India is still under the British rule. He writes in English. Now, why does he consider Maharaja Ranjit Singh as a great patriot? Because he brought back the lands which were lost to Afghanistan back. So he brought Multan, Peshawar, Kashmir, Derajat. So all these areas back. So except for Kashmir, rest of them are in Pakistan. So Maharaja Ranjit Singh is not seen in that light, either in India or Pakistan. So whatever was the extent of his boundaries, when British annexed that province of Punjab, they didn't made more annexation. So the present boundaries of Pakistan and India in north, in Kashmir, are due to that great the genius of one person. Obviously, his descendants couldn't have that kind of genius. Now, I'm coming back to the Muslim one. Now we have Inderjeet Singh on Punjab and Afghanistan on the other side. So they are both neighbors. So we had Dost Muhammad Khan. He, when Maharaja Ranjit Singh annexed Peshawar in 1834, so he had a governor over there, but he didn't annex it. So basically, the governor was defeated by the Khalsa forces, and he was paying tribute. But while Dost Muhammad Khan was in Kandahar, it was annexed. So he declared jihad against Maharaja Ranjit Singh. It was a political thing. The same Dost Muhammad Khan, who was very liberal in his dealing with Hindu merchants in Kabul, at the instigation of the mullahs, he basically arrests all these Hindu merchants and say, I need you to fund my jihad. So basically they were forced to pay double the jizya. So we need to understand the history is something to do with politics as well. So same Dost Muhammad Khan didn't like Sikhs at all, but he understood as the administrator that the Hindu merchants were doing a great job. So he was quite liberal with them dealing. But when he needed money, they were the only people he could get from. But Charles Mason also said that the Muslim merchants who were rich, they were also forced to give money. So we have history then. Then in 1783, Charles Foster, he goes from India, Pakistan, Kabul, way back to England. He writes that when he passes through Peshawar, and in Kabul, he sees Hindu shopkeepers in various parts of the country. So even in small towns, there are Hindu merchants over there. Then we have Mohanlal Kashmiri. Mohanlal Kashmiri is perhaps the first Hindu to write his memories in English. He went to Afghanistan with Alexander Burns as a spy, and he writes that he met a Sikh in Kandahar. Now and he said that Sikh was very surprised that he was speaking his language, and he didn't, because Mohanlal was in disguise and wearing a Muslim outfit. It was only when they started speaking that the Sikh realized that yes. So even in about 1830s, the Sikhs were roaming around when still Maharaja Ranjit Singh and Dost Muhammad Khan, the Afghan ruler, were having, they were enemies, antagonists. It was like India, Pakistan. Let's put it this way.
Right. So the situation from those times is, how much has it changed if I talk about the present time now?
Okay. Now in the 19th century, 20th century, once the British came over in Punjab, so Afghanistan became neighbor of British India. There was no hostility towards, I would say, Sikhs. There was no hostility before, even towards Hindus anyway. So in the present 20th century, if I can give a quick example, Asamai Mandir is a famous place in Kabul. Asa, they say hope. Mai is lady, women. So the worship of Asamai dates back to the pre-Islamic era. So we have Asamai Koh in the highest point, the highest summit in Kabul is Asamai Koh. Koh means mountain. So on the top of the mountain, you have a small temple and the footsteps of the mountain. And about in 1890s or 1900, in the first decade of 1900, the mandir was rebuilt. And the Amir at that time, the ruler of Afghanistan, he sent a palanquin for the idol. So he sent an idol, he said, sends gifts so that the new temple is being built. And under his son, Diwan Niranjan Das was the minister. So Diwan Niranjan was a Afghan Hindu. So we're looking at Amir Amanullah Khan from 1990 to 1929. So he had a minister of finance and commerce, a Hindu, Afghan Hindu. And since then, you have, since 1920s, you have a Sikh MP till date. So if I can, among the Sikh religion, if I can touch base on that, in 1925, I think for the first time in Kabul, the same emperor, Amanullah Khan, he participated in the Vaisakhi celebrations. So Vaisakhi is tomorrow. So the Sikh religion in Afghanistan, I would say, took similar lines to what happened in Punjab. So you have early 1900s, you have Singh Sabha movement. So we have Akali Kaur Singh, who went to a very famous personality in Sikh religion. He went to Afghanistan and he preached about the Sikh religion. And these people were, now there were three type of people in Afghanistan among the Hindu Sikh communities. You have everybody is Khalsa Sikh, just like Virji and myself, with the turban and proper beard and mustaches. Then you have who we will call Hindu. And the third group is who I call Sajdari. We call them Sajdari here in Sindh, we call them Nanak Panthis. So these people, to varying degrees, they are cusp between Hindus and Sikhism. So some of them are like pure Nanak Panthis, if I can use that word, or Sajdaris. They, except for not having a kesh and beard and mustaches, they are Sikh in every aspect. So they go to Gurudwara only. Their only holy book is Guru Granth Sahib. Obviously, Guru Granth Sahib is a living guru for the Sikhs, to all intent and purposes. But then there are other people. There's a cusp in the sense that there's an overlap. So, and for varying degree. If I can give a quick example, a guy rang me and he said he has a great faith in Baba Shri Chand. So in addition to, and he does in the morning Japji Sahab, and in the evening he does, and in the evening he does Rehra Sahib, the compositions which a practicing Sikh would do. So you have those people. In terms of one interesting people is the Khost. There's a province in Afghanistan called Khost, which is next to Pakistan. Those people are Pashto speaking. So they even speak Pashto at home. So they're tongue-tied. So when I speak to them, they can't speak Punjabi. Sometimes I'm communicating with English, or sometimes so we just manage to communicate. So they are almost all of them are like Sajdaris, but they're very much devoted towards Sikhism. Now, so in some ways they're similar to what Sindhis are in Pakistan, not Sindhis in Pakistan. But till they left the country, which I'll come right now in a few moments, the government treated them very well. The government treated them very well, because they, as an administrator, you recognize who is important for your economy. So even today, the Afghan government doesn't want the Sikhs and Hindus to go, although they are not economically strong now. They are the small minority which makes them more pluralistic, more diverse, and they see that, okay, and most educated people do believe that they were their foreign ancestors. So people in olden days, Hindus and Sikhs were called Lala. Lala means elder brother. And interestingly, they were called elder brother because my forefathers were Hindus or Sikhs, right? So I'm a Muslim, I'm respecting you as a Lala. So So it's so heartening to see that kind of culture. But in 40 years of civil war, people have become bitter. It has affected each and every family in Afghanistan. So you're looking at around 1970s, about 3 lakh Hindus and Sikhs, and but Russians invaded Afghanistan in 1979 to protect their own, protect the communist government in Afghanistan. And then you have Pakistan, USA, and all those people saying, "Oh, we don't want Afghanistan, Russia and Afghanistan." So they start giving weapons and military support to the guerrilla warfare guys called Mujahideens. So after 10 years, the Russians left in 1989, and within few months, the Mujahideens were able to capture the country. So what happened was, like in southern Afghanistan, the Kandahar area and those kind of areas, the Hindus and Sikhs left and came to North Afghanistan. When they, in 1989, when Mujahideen were bombing Jalalabad in eastern Afghanistan, came to Lahore. So by this time, most 90% of Hindus and Sikhs had come to Lahore, come to Kabul. And Dr. Najibullah was the president at that time. So outwardly, it's an era where there's no internet. They were showing, well, everything is fine, people are doing fine business, and he had a good relation with the Indian government. So he instructed the Indian embassy not to issue them the visa. So every day there was lines. So you're looking at 1990, 1991, 1992. So those are the period I'm talking about. And this has been mentioned by Shekhar Gupta, who was the editor of India Today at that time. So I found that in their India Today archives. So they were not allowed. So only 4 or 5 visas were given. The 200 people wanted the visas, and 4 and 5 were given. But eventually, when they came at the footsteps or at the boundary of Kabul city, Najibullah told the Indian government that I can't guarantee um, their I can't guarantee that they will be protected once I'm dethroned, because the Mujahideens was like Pakistan and Hindus and Sikhs, although they were Afghan Hindus and Sikhs, they were seen as Indians. So that was the problem. And so they rapidly or hurriedly, speedily issued visas. I mean, 3 or 4 visas were issued on one passport because everybody didn't have a passport at that time. So, and in 1992, 90% of them came to India. So, Vikramjit, we are going to take questions in the end, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll take questions.
Okay. Okay. So I've given you this a brief history of how things happened. Now, if you want, do you want me to touch base on the present situation, or is that your next question?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. That 1992. Now we know that most of them came to India, but we also know that some of them decided to stay back in Afghanistan. And
Yes.
With the recent events, like this one Gurudwara was attacked. Maybe you can
Yes.
shed some light on that. That what is the present condition? How they are suffering, or are they enjoying over there?
Okay. Now, okay, at the moment there are about 800 to 856 in Afghanistan, basically in 3 cities: Kabul, Jalalabad, and Ghazni. Half of them in Kabul, rest in both Jalalabad and Ghazni. Both are in eastern Afghanistan, traditionally very close to the Hindustan of Babur and the Mughal era and India, British India as well. Now, why they left there? There were 2 things. There are 2 types of people who are. One who are very poor, who can't leave, and they are being supported by the community. So they know they have a shelter. They're living in Gurudwaras. The community is feeding them. So do you have widows who have never stepped out of their house, like in that country? So leaving, forget about leaving country. They can't even think of leaving the footstep of their house, which is the Gurudwara. So it's not easy. And then there are those people who He said, well, this is our country. I know in Kandahar, I know a doctor. He's he's in late 60s, early 70s. He goes to India and comes back, and he says to me, he says in Multani, Saraiki, and he calls me sir. And he said, what's up? I said to him, Dr. Saab, why do you call me sir? Well, you have done such a tremendous work that I feel like calling you sir, because we are refugees in all over the world and you have captured our history. And he says, इंद्रजीत, मैं फरीदाबाद गया, मैं वहां भटक गया, मुझे समझ नहीं आया मैं कहाँ आ गया हूँ, मेरा वजूद ही खत्म हो गया. So those are the people. And he goes back to Kandahar. He's still in Kandahar. Imagine in Kandahar, there are about 5 or 6 Hindu Sikhs. So it's not a safe place to be. Kabul, with lot of being a capital, has a lot of security, but it gets attacked a lot. So as well. So those are two people who have decided to dedicate their lives to the community, or out of love of their country, they don't want to go. But then there are poor people who have no option. Now, people ask me, when did they lost their houses? Well, during the Mujahideen era. So you're talking about 1980, 1991, 92 till 1995, 96. Because after dethrowing Dr. Najibullah, the Mujahideens faction started fighting among themselves. And when they started fighting among themselves, Taliban came over and they captured in 1996. At that point, these people, because Kabul was being bombarded, they temporarily left their homes. So after a year or so, or 2 years, when they came back, the houses were overtaken by warlords or powerful neighbors. So they are now living in Afghanistan, in Gurudwaras. Now, when Taliban, and everybody knows Taliban came in 1996, and they were dethroned after 9/11. So 9/11 is September 11, yeah. So after 9/11, sorry, I'm confusing it. Taliban came in 2011. Vikramjit, could you check when Taliban came over here, just to check here? I'm just losing that plot. Okay. So just to continue, when democracy came, Hamid Karzai came in 2012, 13, 14. The Sikhs all over the globe.
I just checked online. It says 1994 is when it was founded.
Yes.
The Afghanistan wing.
Yes, 1996. They start. Yeah. No, that's fine. That's fine. That's another. We are on track. Yeah, we're on track. So we have, and 9/11 happened in September 11. Is it 2001 or 2011? 11.
It's 2001.
2001, yes. So after that, so you have 2001. After that, after 2 months, they were dethroned, and then you have the government, the democratic government came, and initially for few years, except for I would say last 3 or 4 years, there was a relatively peace. So the Afghan Sikh who had basically now resettled in Dubai, England, Europe, they funded and they reconstructed or renovated the Gurudwaras. And that helped these people. So these people, most of them are now living in the Gurudwaras. Even the Gurudwara that was recently attacked has a rich history. It was built by Pai Gondaji. Pai loves his youth as a sign of respect. He was sent by Guru Har Rai Sahib, and that's why it's called Gurudwara Guru Har Rai Sahib. So looking at about 1650s, 1630s, about that period, mid 17th century, and he was sent by Guru Har Rai Sahib to preach Sikhi, and he built that Gurudwara. So that Gurudwara during during the early 90s were captured by Ahmad Shah Massoud. So Ahmad Shah Massoud captured it because it was the strongest structure in the region. And other side, outside Kabul, was Gulbuddin Hikmatyar. So they were bombing each other. So by the time Taliban left, and when Sikh had any opportunity to look at the Gurudwara, do something about it, it was like, oh, it was in ruins. So they had to rebuild it, and they have done a good job about it. Now, in terms of, you asked me the question, how are they living? Things are not great. Things are not great because there's no housing. Secondly, education is a problem. The Sikh boys are bullied in school. So that's the problem. They're called kafirs at times. They're called, so that is a problem as well. But the government has been trying itself, trying bits. So they have created a primary school in Kabul and Jalalabad for Hindus and Sikhs. But after primary school, what happens? So nobody studies after primary school. That's a problem. The government is trying. Then, when I say last year they provided 5 million Afghani, which is the currency of Afghanistan, for the renovation of temples and gurdwaras. So that money is currently being used in the Jalalabad Gurudwara. So outside the main structure, in the premises, they are doing, I think, work on the floor. So I had put those videos on my page. So they are problems. Now, in terms of security problem, now people need to understand that in the last 5 years, on average, 10,000 civilians have been killed. So we're talking at purely innocent people each year in the last 5 years. So last 5 years have been very bad. So 50,000 people have been killed who have been civilians. And out of the 50,000 people, they're all Muslims, except for 25 or 27 who died on 25th of March. And there were about 20 odd who died on 1st of July 2018. Except for those 50 or 60 people, all of them were Muslims. ISIS have killed number of Shias. They have bombarded their mosques number of times, because mosque means you have a big gathering, not alert, easy target. They have even once at a wedding, Shia wedding, they blasted a bomb, 60 odd people. And worst was in a suburb of Kabul, there was a tuition center, and they blasted a bomb over there, and 64 or 68 students, all between 18 and 20, Shia died. Now coming back to okay, Sunni Muslims, Taliban, just to have better negotiating power with the Americans, have blasted so many bombs and killed so many innocent people. 50% of all casualties in 2019 have been done by, of civilian casualties, have been done by Taliban. And they're all Sunni Muslim. So it's a very dangerous place to say. So I'm trying to give you a whole picture, and people can form their own opinion. So it's not like, okay, one person is being targeted. But yes, when things are bad, it is slightly worse for minorities because they are more vulnerable. And in this case, the person, basically the gunmen, or 3-4 gunmen, they killed the Afghan Muslim security guard outside the Gurudwara. They killed him first, and then they entered the Gurudwara and then started killing. Yeah.
So we all understand that Sikhs being in such a minority, if they were targeted, Taliban would have finished all the Sikhs and Hindus way back. But yes, the kind of work Taliban has been doing over there. Is there any particular reason? Because I was also looking at one of the interviews that you recently gave. Is there a particular reason why they are targeting only Shias and Sikhs and Hindus, or specific communities?
The thing is, as I said earlier, it's an interesting thing. when Taliban ruled the country for about 5 years, I think the Hindus and the Sikhs paid some sort of money, protection money. I don't think it was called jizya, but they were left alone. So they were harsh with everybody. I mean, Sikh shopkeepers in Shor Bazaar were told that not to serve a woman who's not accompanied by an adult family male member. So women were flogged for coming alone or wearing too much makeup. So women being women, you would have people wearing heels under burqa or wearing nail polish still wearing burqa. A woman aspires to look beautiful and their husbands or also want them to look beautiful. So you had those issues. Now, as I said earlier, ISIS has a history of targeting non-Muslims. So Yazidis, so we know a lot of Hindus know about Yazidis and they call them Vedic Hindus. That's a different debate for some other day, but they were killed and they were women were raped, they were US sex slaves. So you in Iraq, the same kind of philosophy or mentality which is targeting, which is force, and they are targeting Shias. Now, Sikhs were targeted because I think they were felt that okay, they seem to be an easy target. There's one gunman only outside their temple. Let's kill him. Whatever he may be Sunni Muslim doesn't make a difference to them because in their philosophy, if they have to create a caliphate, uh, certain lives of the believers can be sacrificed. So so that's the mentality. And but even in Afghanistan, as I said, Taliban killed about 50% of the about 4,000 to 5,000 people last year in bomb blasts, in gatherings, and most of them were Sunni Muslims. So everybody is getting killed in Afghanistan. So, but yes, a majority can't even cry. Where will they go? Isn't it? So imagine you have to you're negotiating peace with a group which is responsible for so much killing because you want peace. You are desperate for peace. So basically, in a you negotiate in a Hindi movie, you negotiate a hafta system with a gunda, isn't it? So not to bother my mohalla. So that is kind of the mentality. Yeah.
So, what kind of future do you see for these minorities, specifically talking about Hindus and Sikhs? And we also know that most of the religious structures that were existing, the Buddhist structures, and we had some other prehistoric structures, they were badly destroyed. Bamiyan Buddha became
Yes.
famous all across the globe, but there are hundreds and thousands of structures which never came to light. I can see there is this very interesting statue of Ganesha on the cover of your book. I don't know how many people know about this particular statue. So, what kind of future do you see for these communities?
I mean, there's a Sikh MP, another thing Khalsa. His brother is the advisor to the president. So you have a political representation. In terms of Hindus, there are only 50, 60 Hindus in Afghanistan now. And most of them are in Kabul. They still have three major ancient temples with them. And I mean, if Sikh leaves Afghanistan, they will also leave. So in terms of future, I think future is uncertain. The thing is that if they reach a compromise with Taliban and there is a peace, great for everybody. But will the Taliban be able to control ISIS, who will not talk to anybody? So, so for some people, Taliban is like a political wing. But Taliban and their women MPs in Afghanistan who have expressed grave reservation why Taliban, we are negotiating. How can we trust Taliban? Because you have colleges now open for women, you have school education for women, for girl child, which was all banned in Afghanistan. I mean, even the TV transmission was stopped during Taliban 5-year rule. So people are very apprehensive. So the future looks bleak, but it all depends upon the locals. They have the option. They have the option to come to India, but as I said, some of them don't feel that they've lived in Afghanistan for so long. Don't feel that they are Indians. They
They
aren't
feel from the
Indians.
comfort zone over there.
There's a
That
comfort
is,
zone. I
yeah,
mean, there's also thing. I mean, Vikram, you need to realize that India will only provide security. Security in the sense that it's a more peaceful country, but after that, nothing. Then it comes down to charities who will look after you for few days, few weeks, few months. I mean, Sindhi Hindus who have come to Jodhpur, other places, all these places, where have we in democracies, unfortunately, people who constitute a vote bank, they are looked after. So all those widows and with young children, unless the whole community comes here, they cannot come here. So it is for them to decide they want to come to India. Now, somebody asked me why Sikhs in Afghanistan want to go to Canada, and I laughed. I said, I think 90% of the Afghanis will leave Afghanistan for Canada. Why? Why not? Isn't it? Canada is one of the most peaceful country in the world with such a low crime rate. And in those countries, Western countries, you can work hard and make a good living. You can even start from scratch and still make it there. That's not easy in India.
that's true.
Yes,
That's true.
yes. Sikhs in Delhi have Gurudwara. There's a Gurudwara, Guru Arjan Dev's in Tilak Nagar, and then there's the Afghan Hindu Sikh Society by Khajinder Singh Khurana and Delhi Gurudwara Prabandhak Committee. They all have made arrangements. Now, it is for the community to decide in Kabul if they want to come or not. Also, it's probably one of the factors which we couldn't plan for. It was the COVID-19, the coronavirus. You have a lockdown in India. So, and it's not easy to, especially for older people, it's not easy to leave your country because you are in that comfort zone and you know the people. For young, it is easy. Like even my own parents, my wife's parents, they didn't want it to come to UK. I'm working, I'm busy, so I'm fine with it. For them, it's horrible thing. It's a prison for them. My grandmother used to call it sweet prison. So you have all the cleanliness and everything, but it's not the same. So imagine how people would have felt during partition in those kind of places. Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, right. So, thanks. This was really amazing, quite insightful, and
Thank
we've
you.
got some questions as well. Divya is asking, could you talk about the Hinduism in Afghanistan before 1000 AD? Well, Divya, I think you joined a little late. We started with that discussion, and I'll be putting up this recording in a while. So maybe you can just go through that part once again. And Rajeshwar has got a very interesting question, which I think, again, I can answer better in that part because he says, why did Afghan invaders demolish Hindu temples and idols in India, but did not do the same back in Afghanistan? Bamiyan Buddha survived all through the late 21st century. Well, Rajeshwar, this is a partial statement when you say that they came and they destroyed temples or whatever structures we had here. They did not destroy all temples. They only destroyed specific sites which were either the hub of politics or associated with the person ruling over here, community which they wanted, through which they wanted to send a strong message. So even when Khilji from Delhi marched all the way up to Somnath, he did not destroy everything that was coming in between. Yogmaya temple of Delhi still exists from the times of in Khilji Tughlaq period. It was there, as we have been told, and then he marches all the way, takes several days to reach Somnath, just because Somnath had gold and silver scattered all around. And in between, whatever he found, he did not even bother to destroy temples that were made of just plain simple stone. When Babur comes in, Babur does not destroy temples. Babur simply, in his memoir, it is written that he simply paints these statues red wherever he finds statues that are nude, because he said that this is very unholy. So he painted them red, and he said, wherever you see red color, please don't look in that direction. So since, yes, destruction did happen, but then we only get news of destruction, then we make it so big, because since 1857, that's what British have been doing. That's how our entire this divide and rule policy have been working in India. That these stories that can uh, cause a drift, those stories were highlighted so much that other side of the coin somehow just vanished. So I hope I'm right, Inderjeet ji.
Yes, I would say, okay, as you said, you are absolutely right. There are two things over here. The money. You
Yeah.
don't come 3,000 kilometers from Ghazni to Somnath just to destroy a temple. There's a big money involved in it. Yes, just like he was a Ghaznavi, Mahmud Ghaznavi was a big politician. He used Islam whenever it suited him to kill, loot as well. But when it suited him politically, he had Hindus in his army as well.
True.
And also the thing is that when you, and as you are absolutely right, when a community rebelled, if I can give an example of Mongols, when they came to Central Asia, whichever community sundered before them, they spared them. If they rebelled, they defeated them. Second time, if they rebelled them, they destroyed the whole city. So the whole city, I've covered in my book, the whole major cities of Afghanistan, Iran were destroyed by Mongols, and Mongols were not neither Hindus nor Muslims. So that was a tribal mentality. Yes, why they allowed them in Afghanistan? Well, when you have a community who is beneficial for you, they are paying taxes. Let them have their temples if they want to. Yeah.
The way of life.
So there were restrictions. Let's put it this way: there were restrictions that idols could not be taken in a procession outside, but they were allowed. So even Taliban, they destroyed Bahamian Buddhas. They didn't do anything to the Hindu temples, and those temples are still on. Basically, they simply said the same thing, that as long as you're doing indoors, we are fine with it. It's the money, it's the economics also makes a difference over here. When you are administrating a country, you can't keep on destroying everything.
And we have got few questions from okay, a follow-up question from Rajeshwar before we come to Sweta's question. Rajeshwar says, is it safe to visit Afghanistan as a tourist? What do you say?
Okay, not at the moment. I would say it would be risky unless you are an adventurer. Now the problem will be you can put a salwar kameez or a Pathani suit, but you will not be able to speak Pashto or Dari, and you will be easily caught out. Yes, if the Taliban, we reached agreement, the government reached, American reached agreement, Taliban, and there is a power transfer, then wait and watch. If things go, there's more peace in the country, then definitely visit. I would also visit, but the problem is still going to be, the question mark is going to be ISIS, who will never talk to anybody.
So Sweta is asking, one is about the image of Ganesha. If you can
Yes.
tell us something about this.
Yes. Interestingly, in West Punjab and the region of Pakistan and in Afghanistan, the only idols which we have extracted are that of Shiva, his family, or the Shakti, the goddess, which we all loosely club under Durga or the three Devis. There's no Vaishnava idols. Vaishnava movement came quite late, and I think it didn't before it could spread beyond Ravi or beyond Satluj even. It was Islam had started coming in that place. This particular idol was found in 1970s by Italian excavators in the north town of Gardez. Gardez is the capital of Paktia province. It's quite near to Pakistan, and it is now kept in one of the temples in Kabul. It is interestingly, it is made of white marble. It has an inscription on the bottom of it that somebody called I'm forgetting a name, and the year has been mentioned about it's 6th or 7th century AD, Common Era. So it's a very interesting place, and people who find it, I mean, everybody has a little bit of own philosophy and own theories, and they say, well, no, Afghanistan was more pagan or only Buddhist. This and other shivlings, which we have found in Afghanistan, a good example that, well, no, Hinduism also coexisted. I mean, Harshvardhan of Thaneshwar and Kanauj, when Hyun Sang visits him, at one place he says, well, he is a proper Buddhist, but then in the same breath he writes that he has given a huge donation to a Shiva temple. So, and people were more liberal in that place.
I'm hearing for the first time, because Harshvardhan, what I've read, was a dedicated Hindu king who ruled from Kshetra Thaneshwar area.
Yes, but if you, I like to read the original sources. Hyun Sang puts him as a Buddhist.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
dig deeper into this now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a very good translation in early 1900s done by British. I think it's Beale or something. Somebody with the surname Beale. So yeah.
Sweta's also asking, how much time did it take to research for this book?
Okay. I think there was a question for somebody, is Shikarpuri or Hyderabadis have also been
same?
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yes. My original interest was the Sindhis. There are about 40 lakh Hindus in Pakistan, and about 93% of them are in Sindh. So they still have the temples over there. As I said, there's overlap between Sikh and Hindu religion with them. So that was very interesting of them. So we are the Punjabi Sikhs, don't know anything about them. So this all started in 2011. No, it started in 2015. I started researching on Sindhis. And as I was researching on Sindhis, then I became friend with Sindhi Hindus. And there's a guy called, he said, Pajit, research, and he was from Balochistan, Hindu from Balochistan. So I did that. I think, you can say it took me about, in parts, 3 to 4 years, in parts. But when I started writing, so I'm like a mad person. So the only thing I was thinking was, okay, next chapter. I even used to pray to Vaheguru and Ardas and say, Babaji, I can't find a reference of Hindus in 13th century. Can you give me reference? So I was like, my wife was saying, why do you say that? Why don't you say, help me in the book? I said, well, in case the message doesn't get clearer. So I'm just asking for a small thing. Book is a big thing. I'm asking for divine help, but in small packets. So it became, you have to be passionate to write a book. That's of this kind.
That's true. That's so true. And your passion reflects clearly from the text. Nupur is also asking, what about you spoke about the primary schools for Sikhs and Hindus in Afghanistan. And is there any organization working to support their further studies at the moment?
As far as I know, no. The thing is that the problem is all educated people have already left Afghanistan, and the leadership, Sikh leadership, Afghan Sikh lost their leadership, most of their leadership, who were in the 50s or late 50s, who were experienced, who had seen the good times as well, who they died in the bomb blast on 1st of July 2019. There are a couple of organizations, charities, who want to help Sikhs, but I don't think it has come to the level of providing, say, high school education. Because you see, it's a nitty and gritty of things like roti, kapda, makan. So roti, kapda, makan. The education comes afterwards, isn't it? So the priority is over there. Yeah.
Okay, we are getting more messages, but I think we are running short of time. So what I can say is I can thank everyone for joining, especially Inderjeet ji for such wonderful insight and the kind of information you provided. Staying here, we hardly get to know about places like Afghanistan and a lot of parts about parts of Pakistan also. We hardly know anything about Balochistan or Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and how life goes in there, and absolutely nothing about the area of Kashmir that is now under the occupation of Pakistan. So.
Yes.
Yeah, it's actually great to know. Thank you everyone, and maybe we can have similar sessions again sometime in future. Pick up some other topic and have a discussion.
Yeah, well, what we can do is we can, right now we had a huge topic. What we can do is a slightly shorter topic.
Yeah.
Like we can, how are Hindus in Balochistan? How are Hindus and Sikhs in Frontier Province? Rather than doing in history, what's the present situation? And I think that would be more insightful. And also, I would say thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak in this forum. But also, I would say, I would like to promote, say, books need to be read. And that way, indirectly, you're supporting people like me and Vikramjit, because if the publisher is able to sell the books, then he will rehire us again to write another books, or else it becomes, if it's not a profitable venture for them, we will not be able to write books. Non-fiction history books find it difficult, but that's why we try to make it interesting, but they are part of our heritage and legacy, which we should not forget. People talk a lot about, even in Europe, it was all Hinduism, but nobody believes them. So I'm talking about last 1,000 years. So yes, I can go for another 300, 400 years. I've done more research, and hopefully in the coming years, if there's opportunity to do second edition, I can do that. But I think it is easy. It's very important first to convince ourselves what our heritage legacy, and then to convince others as well.
And now
because
that
they are, yeah.
Now that I know that your original interest was Sindhis or Hindus living in southern part of Pakistan, I am definitely going to bother you maybe in a couple of weeks, because we already have some other sessions planned for
Yes,
next 2
why
weeks.
not?
In a couple of weeks, I'll coordinate with you. We will pick up that topic as well, and we'll discuss.
Yes,
That would be great.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank
okay,
you.
guys, bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
See you again.
Thank you. Bye.